smiles returning to the faces. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 there it goes. Little darling, the smile's returning to.
On May 28, 2012, Memorial Day, the President of the United States and the First Lady attended the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration, National Announcement, and Proclamation Ceremony at the Vietnam Memorial, hosted by Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta. Also in attendance was the Vice President and Dr. Biden, Secretary of Veterans Affairs Eric Shinseki, other Cabinet Secretaries and representatives, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Martin Dempsey, service secretaries and senior military representatives from all the military services. In addition to the remarks made by the President, the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, former Senator Chuck Hagel, who along with his brother had served in Vietnam, made remarks to the thousands of veterans assembled at the Vietnam Memorial. The presidential proclamation, which is also being handed out to you in the audience, was read by Vietnam War Medal of Honor recipient Brian Thacker, and a letter to all Vietnam veterans from Reverend Dr. Billy Graham was read by a military chaplain. Most importantly, there were thousands of Vietnam veterans and their loved ones in attendance to accept the thanks of a grateful nation for their service, valor, and sacrifice. During the wreath-laying ceremony, more than a dozen Gold Star families joined the President, First Lady, and others at the wall to lay wreaths on behalf of each of the 58,282 names etched and forever enshrined in the black granite, including the family of another American woman military nurse killed in Vietnam. That special ceremony, like the one we are gathered for today here in Scranton, is part of the ongoing mission of the Vietnam War Commemoration in assisting a grateful nation in thanking and honoring all Vietnam veterans and their families. We thank the organizers of today's ceremony, Kim Atkinson and the Friends of the Forgotten, for helping to accomplish this important mission. And to all of our Vietnam veterans, and that includes Vietnam-era veterans and their families, thank you for your service and sacrifice. We encourage organizations to assist a grateful nation in recognizing and thanking these veterans and their families during the commemoration period of 2012 to 2025. And for more information about the national event that occurred on Memorial Day and on the commemoration, you can see us at our website, VietnamWar50.com. Thank you, and our ceremony will begin shortly.
At this time, I will ask each and every one of you to please stand for the presentation of the colors by Dixon City American Legion Post 665 Honor Guard. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Lou Ross, Gino Merli Veterans Center Council. And please remain standing for the invocation by the Most Reverend J.C. Timlin, Bishop Emeritus, the Diocese of Scranton. Color Guards. please remain standing. Mr. Lou Ross, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America and God bless all of you.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, Bishop Timlin, would you please give us the invocation?
Let us pray. O God, our Heavenly Father, once again we turn to you in prayer as we gather as the friends of the forgotten to pay high honor to Lieutenant Carol A. Drazba, the first American military nurse and woman to die in the Vietnam War. We who knew and loved Carol as a young student nurse on these very hallowed grounds are most grateful for this inspiring recognition of one who so well reflected the lessons God taught us, lessons of dedicated and selfish service to those who need our help. Let nothing ever dull the brightness of our ideals or blur the clearness of our vision. As we commemorate today the ultimate sacrifice made by Lieutenant Drazba and bless this fitting memorial, keep us ever mindful, we pray, that it will profit us nothing if we gain the whole world, if we give not of its possessions for the betterment of our brothers and sisters, especially when we hear the moan of their suffering or their pleading cry for rest and comfort and healing. O Lord, you told us the parable of the Good Samaritan, that we may not pass by the traveler who is stricken on the way, but that binding his wounds, we may care for him at the end, knowing that when our service is ended, our passport and our reward will be your blessing, in whose footsteps we have walked, to whose needy we have ministered, and for whose children we cared. You who live and reign forever, and you who are the Lord of all consolation, and the final reward of service given in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated at this time. We are Friends of the Forgotten. We are a veterans awareness and support organization dedicated to the issues and concerns of all veterans, past, present, and future. The purpose of our mission is to honor and support all veterans and troops that wear the uniforms of this great country. We will always remember and honor those brave men and women that have served and those that have not yet returned. We, as members of Friends of the Forgotten, are all about commitment, volunteerism, education, and work. Our organization consists of veterans and non-veterans alike. We do what we do because we love our country and we love our veterans. There is no greater honor for us than to honor another veteran. We take our mission seriously. Our events are meant to heighten consciousness about veterans, their issues and concerns, our prisoners of war and those still missing in action, and to ensure that our servicemen and women of today will not be left behind or forgotten. Many times people comment to us of how patriotic we are. And I say to them, patriotism can be found on every street corner. If you look for any simple act of compassion that one American does for another. When we as citizens exercise our rights as Americans and live our lives to the fullest, we honor the service and sacrifice of all veterans. Some say they have never served in the ranks. I beg to differ. There are many different trenches in life that call for acts of heroism by ordinary citizens every day. Today's dedication of the Second Lieutenant Carol Ann Drazba, RN, U.S. Army Memorial, completes a journey that Friends of the Forgotten began 3 years ago at Hometown Heroes in Dunmore, Pennsylvania. This journey encountered many peaks and valleys and presented us with many challenges as to the reality of raising the funds for such an important undertaking as this. Without the courage, can-do spirit, and willingness of our members of our organization, this mission would have failed. And for us, this was not an option. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I would briefly like to introduce the officers and board members of Friends of the Forgotten. Our president, Jack Stahulik. No, you're not speaking up. You're not speaking up. He thought I was going to give him something. I'm vice president. My name is Nick Fata. Thank you. Our secretary, Mr. Ed Fatz. Treasurer, Diane Comstock. Our board members, Mr. Paul Cox. Donnie Knight, who is also a road captain. Terry Kresge. Patrick Williams. Our Sergeant at Arms, Mr. George Atkinson. Our chaplain, Ron Kabovich. And through the years, James Brown has been recognized as being the hardest working man in show business. Well, the hardest working person in Friends of the Forgotten is our special events coordinator, Kim Anda Atkinson, RN, certified emergency nurse, retired. She is real shy, but it's because of her of why this event happened. I would like to acknowledge, and as I acknowledge you, please stand up and just wave to the crowd. The sister and brother of Carol Ann, Joanne Drazba Catula and Joseph Drazba and family. Would you please rise? Friend and fellow nursing classmate of Carol Ann, Ann Doman, RN. The Scranton State Hospital, Scranton State General Hospital alumni, please rise. We are so honored to have a very special person with us this afternoon. Lieutenant Colonel retired Louise Whalen, Army Nurse Corps, Carol Ann Drazba's recruiter. Lieutenant Colonel Whalen's going to say a few words right now.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a long wait until we have this beautiful day. And I knew Carol and as a young nurse that I came up here because I was a recruiting nurse out of Philadelphia, and this was my territory. And I'm so happy to be here and celebrate with her. And you know, I left this area after I talked to these young nurses here. And when I got finished with my program, Carol Ann came to me and she said, you know, I'm going to be an Army nurse. And I said, oh, Carol, I do hope you will be. And then I lost track of her. And I didn't hear too much about her. I did hear little things now and then that she did come into the Army Nurse Corps. But then I went on to do other things and to do other areas. And I was in Tripler Medical Center in Hawaii when I heard about the helicopter crash. And then I learned that Carol Ann was on that plane. And I just felt very badly that I did not keep up with her. But as everybody does, you go on to other things and you don't forget those people, but you just don't keep in touch with them. But now this is a beautiful day and we're not going to be sad. We're going to have people come by and see this beautiful statue of a lovely nurse dedicated to her. And I'm sure there will be people who will look at that statue and maybe say a little prayer. And a man might go by and tip his hat, and others will come and just look and maybe read about her life, and they will remember. And we will always remember too. And I want to take this time to just thank Kim, who never gave up on this project. And I love her. And thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Colonel Whalen. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I have an honor of introducing somebody that's been a friend of the forgotten, a friend of Friends of the Forgotten for many years now. He's always a person that says to us, anything I could do for you, I'll be more than happy to. He's a humble person. He entered the United States Army as an enlisted man. He served in Vietnam and received the Bronze Star. Came back to where his roots started, received his college education, went on to receive his Juris Doctorate, and today he worked his way up through his profession. And it's my distinct honor to introduce to you Lackawanna County President Judge Thomas Munley.
Thank you so much. And Kim and George Atkinson, thank you for what you do for me and for all the Friends of the Forgotten. I would never be here had it not been for Kim inviting me every single year when something's going on, and it's amazing the job that you do. And I want to say, I just about know everybody out here on a first-name basis. All my friends are here. I love you, ladies and gentlemen. I think about you all the time. I want to say, I just saw Mayor Jim Connors and Mayor David Winslow and Joey Ricardo and Fran Pantuso, Niggy and Gargiola there, Senator John Blake. Mike Washoe's stuck in the back there someplace. See, if you ran again, you'd be up here, Mr. Washoe. But anyway, I am so honored to be here for Carol Ann Drazba. She is what a hero was all about. When I went to Vietnam, I knew about her. I never met her. Believe it or not, Bishop Timlin knew who she was and met her. I never did. But I've known about her my whole life. because she truly is the reason why we're all here. Pretty soon we're going to see the memorial. I talked to Joey Ricardo before. I said, Joey, we're here for a great event. We're here for an amazing, amazing event. We have our commissioners here that are going to present a proclamation. This is a great event. All of you people who are here for a reason. You know why? Because you care. You could be someplace else. You could be at a beach today. You could be somewhere on a motorboat. You could be watching a baseball game or football game or the U.S. Open. But you're here for Carol Ann Drazba. Remember that, folks. That's what makes you people great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Judge Munley. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce for a few remarks our president, Jack Stahulik.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for showing up to this great event. I want to thank everybody that was here last night and this morning, finishing up all the touches. You guys did everything above and beyond. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. As this monument was starting to become a reality, many of you in the community reached out to our organization and asked, how can we help you to make this memorial and dedication a reality? Your response was overwhelming. Contributions were made, paver forms were in our mail daily, and many of you asked if you could be part of this historical event. With that said, on behalf of Friends of the Forgotten, I would like to thank each and every one of you for showing your undying support and interest, for being here today and participating in this very special occasion. Thank you very much.
I hope you're ready for this. I'm going to introduce right now Kim Anda Atkinson, RN, Certified Emergency Room Nurse, retired, and spearhead of the Carol Ann Drazba Memorial, Friends of the Forgotten.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to try to get through this without a tear. But before I start, I have a few very personal thank yous. First of all, Major General Conn and the Army Nurse Corps. We cannot thank you enough. Thank you for coming. It is such a delight and an honor to have you here. It was our pleasure. I have worked with these women for the last couple of weeks out on the phone. Ladies, you are the best. Thank you so much. Brigadier General retired Wilma Vaught from WMSA, the Women's in Military Service to America Museum at the Arlington Cemetery. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you, to have you here, to have dinner with you last night. Thank you. Brigadier General Michael Gould, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. Thank you, sir. I know we kind of had a conversation at one point where I kind of went up one side and down the other, but thank you. It made sense, didn't it? Thank you. Michael Semyon, Commandant at Gino Merli Veterans Center, wherever you are, thank you so much for your help and your concern and your compassion. Louise Whalen, of course, who you've just met. We have become close friends. We talk on the phone often, and we will continue to do that. Thank you. Yvonne Schills, who you met reading the proclamation from the President, who we befriended last year, she found us and invited us to Washington last year, and her commemoration has kicked off with the proclamation just recently, and I want to thank her for all these connections, all this help. Wherever you are, Yvonne, in the crowd, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Okay. Bishop Timlin, and Reverend Dr. Mager, thank you for being here. We so appreciate you being with us today. And of course, Judge Munley, who I never forget. You're on my list, you know, my call list. Okay. Okay. An angel was sent to us, and that's besides Carol. He's standing in the back wearing her shirt. Jeff Parisi. Jeff, raise your hand back there. Jeff was our monument maker and our in between everything, between our sculptor, our engravers, everyone. He was here the last 2 days, and I think till midnight last night, cutting bricks, laying bricks, along with Sean Gallagher, and today his uncle, David Beachaver. I want to thank them because up till about an hour before you arrived, he was still here cutting bricks and laying stone. Thank you, Jeff. Jerry Snyder, where are you? You better raise your hand. Okay. Jerry, we couldn't have done this without you. You have been the instrument that brought us here. And I just remember that name. Whenever you think of Ann Drazba, it happened because not only of me, but because of Jerry Snyder himself as well. Thank you, Jerry, and son and family. Army Nurse History Museum from Fort Sam, Houston, Texas, came all the way here to record this. Where are you guys? Raise your hand. There's our recorder right here, thank you. And Nancy Cantrell, I know you're out there somewhere, wherever you are. Thank you, there you are. All of the Friends of Forgotten. And a very, very special thank you, because these people have put up with me for the last year, especially the last few months and the last few weeks. I have not had a life of my own. I have neglected my family, my friends, and most of all, my grandchildren, and I apologize for that. My mother and father are over here somewhere. John and Shirley, please raise your hand, stand up so everybody can see you. I'm sorry, I have my life back. We will be together soon. My son and his wife and my 2 grandchildren are over in this corner, I believe, last I saw them. Lee DeAngelis, will you raise your hand or jump up and down or do something? Lisa DeAngelis, there he is, back there, thank you. We'll see you later, we're gonna have a party, okay? And then somebody dear to me who helped to design this monument. And some people may think this is strange, but he's my ex-husband. John DeAngelis, would you please stand up, and his assistant, Mr. Anthony Gasper, who helped design it. They're back there from Johnson College. Thank you very much. It's beautiful. Okay, I also want to say thank you from my soul to all who recognize the true significance of women and nurses in the war and the military. This is an honor. Just your presence here shows us exactly what this honor is all about and why we are here today to honor this brave nurse and woman. If I missed anybody, I have a list of people that's probably 18 pages long to thank, but we're not going to do that. Don't worry. I want to thank all the senators and everyone that came out today, the county commissioners, everyone that came forward. Thank you for all your help and support, and the city of Scranton for letting us have this wonderful showmobile, and Jim Cullen and his band. Weren't they great? Yo! Yeah. I hadn't had time to even write a speech, but I did this about 3 o'clock this morning. I'm still a night nurse. I work the night shift. 11 o'clock, I wake up and start to write and send out messages. So here it goes. I'm going to start it out with 2 words. You will see my paver in front of Carol that says divine intervention, and that's exactly what this whole event is about. February the 18th, 1966, Second Lieutenant Carol Ann Drazba, RN, made her final rounds at the 3rd Field Hospital near Saigon. A reprieve was finally in sight. After working many hours, a weekend of R&R was a welcome relief. February the 18th, 1966, I was a mere child of 9 years old. I believe it was the Christmas I asked for a nurse's uniform and spent many hours playing nurse, oblivious to the Vietnam War and turmoil in our country. Fast forward, early 1980s, my very first day of nursing school. A small group of us were given a tour of the Scranton State General Hospital, which stood on this site, by a very vivacious, bubbly, and professional nursing instructor. Her name was Ann Drazba, my nursing instructor. I call this divine intervention, and you will see why. We stopped in the hall under a bronze plaque, which is still now hanging in the Gino Merli Center. She pointed to it, and I saw a small little face of a nurse and the story of her sacrifice in the Vietnam War. My career blossomed from an LPN to an RN to a neuro, ICU, trauma, OR, ER, trauma assistant, and charge nurse in a very busy ER, servicing 7 counties at CMC in Scranton. I was mentored along the way by many State General Hospital graduates and doctors who knew Carol. They worked with her at State and praised her for her knowledge, bedside manner, professional care, and kindness. Again, divine intervention. This always stuck in my mind. 2008, my husband, George Atkinson, a USA Vietnam-era veteran, and myself, now a retired RN and members of Friends of Forgotten, a Vietnam support group, offered up Carol Ann Drazba's name as a veteran from the past who should be honored. In our quest to honor her appropriately, we found her family and my nursing instructor, Ann, Carol's dear friend and nursing school classmate. We also found that, to our astonishment, many in Dunmore did not know her story, and that indeed she was a very significant figure in military and nursing history. And by the way, my husband, George, thank you for being my companion, my soulmate, my life, driving Miss Daisy, and just being there whenever I needed a friend. My best friend, George Atkinson. There are 58,272 names on the Vietnam Memorial Wall in D.C. Only 8 are women, all nurses. Carol is considered the first Dunmore resident to die in Vietnam and the first woman's name to appear on the Vietnam Wall in D.C. Together with Elizabeth Jones, they were the first American military women and nurses to die in the Vietnam War on February the 18th, 1966. The ill-fated flight, manned with 4 crew members, whisked away 2 nurses and a doctor from the carnage and horror of the war that day at the 3rd Field Hospital. 20 minutes into flight, for reasons that no one can explain, the helicopter began to fly low and became entangled in high-tension wires, crashed and burned. All 7 brave and patriotic souls were lost in the jungles of Vietnam. All were casualties of war. They all died in service to their country in a war zone in Vietnam. I would like to read to you how our veterans viewed the nurses of Vietnam. This was taken from the program from the 1993 Nurses Memorial Dedication Book List, which was so graciously donated and hand-delivered to us from Washington by the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation, and I want to thank them for doing that. Thank you so much. This first excerpt. Your pain was in your mind when you saw how many of us were coming in. I flew out, you stayed. I don't know how you stayed. Your touch meant we were safe. We have had a few ups and downs in our quest to erect this monument, all to come to this final resting place and a new beginning for Carol. Back to her sacred ground, Scranton State General Hospital ground, now the Gino Merli Veterans Center. She trained here, worked here, and now through all the ups and downs, this can only be divine intervention. The Department of Veterans Affairs has recognized Carol as the true historic heroine she truly is, and they have called their daughter home to forever watch over her patients and veterans from this courtyard. I'd like to conclude with one more quote from the Nursing Memorial Program. I will never know the pain that lay in the souls of those who fought so bravely, of the women who helped men die in peace, and the women who endured the aftermath. I can only imagine, for I was a child, innocently unaware of the horror from afar. But I am older now, and my awareness of the Vietnam War brings much sadness and sorrow to my soul. Please never forget the sacrifice of our veterans from the past and of our nurses from all wars, for they have unhealing wounds that they bear every day. Thank God they are with us today. Thank God you veterans are here with us today. Thank God for this monument coming true. Thank God for all your support. It has been my honor to bring this to you, this everlasting instrument of healing by divine intervention. Thank you.
Murphy's here to make the presentation. I'm going to interrupt the program for a month. I got to leave. Kim on the Atkinson. Ladies and gentlemen, before we bring up our next speaker, we have to sort of make a little break in protocol on our program. Due to a prior commitment, I want to introduce State Representative Kevin Murphy and his Chief of Staff, Thomas Till, for a presentation, and then we're back on schedule. Please come up on stage.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and thank you very much for taking a brief moment out so the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives could celebrate the life, to celebrate the history of nurses during the Vietnam War, the nurses and the brave women who have fought for this country, who have given the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of their friends, their neighbors, and of their families. I have citations that were prepared that are signed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and on behalf of the House of Representatives here in Pennsylvania, I want to celebrate the life, acknowledge this momentous occasion, thank the Atkinsons, thank the Friends of the Forgotten for not giving up. This was something that was a long time in coming without a strong commitment to making sure that we celebrate the lives of people who have given so much for us and for our communities. I'm very proud to be here, and I'm very happy to present the Friends of the Forgotten and the family members of Carolyn with this citation. And as the Honorable Judge Munley had mentioned, there are many things that many of us be doing besides celebrating here today. My son is in the middle of a Little League game right now, and I'm going to have to go back and join him and his teammates and try to help them out. But once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me this opportunity to participate in today's event. God bless. Thank you very much.
Thank you, State Representative Murphy and Chief of Staff Thomas Hill. We're going to get back on schedule, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I want to bring up a special person. No one probably knew Carol closer or more than her close friend and classmate, Ann Drazba. What more do I need to say? Ladies and gentlemen, Carol Ann's classmate and close friend, Ann Dolman.
I appreciate your applause, and I want you to know that I put this uniform on with great honor. This is the uniform that we graduated with from Scranton State General Hospital School of Nursing. The cape that I wear is wool, so I'm probably not going to leave it on for too long. The cap that I wear is white, and it's plain white. This is what we wore when we were capped. Later on, RNs did sometimes put a black band around their hat, but this is what we graduated with. As a matter of fact, this is what I posed for the statue with. So I'm hoping that our statue, that her cap looks exactly right, and I'm sure, Jeff, that it does. And so if it was warm out, and it is, and if in fact it was, uncomfortable, we could just put this back, and there are straps that hold it from falling. So this is a nurse's cape, and this is what we wore. And we have a pin. I am wearing a pin that's very special to me because my house was robbed a few years ago, and my pin was taken. But Carol's family have graciously given me Carol's pin, and so I wear that today with great honor. Thank you so much. The reason that I really like to be here is because you know about Carol, but I knew Carol. She became my best friend when we were in nurses training, living for 3 years on this property. The nurses' residence was on this side of the street behind the first part of the Veterans Center, and we spent a wonderful time there. The School of Nursing placed us in alphabetical rooms, okay? So Canterbury, Dietrich, Drazba, Fisher, Flesh, and Flood were together, and we 6 became fast friends who shared lots of laughs and talks about our experience with our patients and our classmates. We talked about things that happened on and off duty and plans for the future in our careers. And of course, we talked about boyfriends. She was in my wedding and was our first overnight guest. We have wonderful memories of those days. And Carol was just like your best friend was. She was just wonderful. She was so wonderful to have there with you for any event that happened. And so we were like that. We shared a lot of fun together. She was full of fun and adventure. And so the friend of yours that was like that, you think about Carol. But we also shared our sorrows. Carol was very close to her father, and when he died, we all mourned with her and helped her through that time. Carol wanted to be a nurse since she was 11 years old, very concerned about her nosebleeds. And she enlisted in the Women's Army Nurse Corps in our junior year, same year that her dad died. And after graduation, and all of us traveling together, our little group of 6, traveling together to Harrisburg to take our state boards, because that's what you had to do years ago. We had to travel. Today you can take them here. And then she became stationed at Fort Huachuca, Arizona. And my husband and I visited her there while we were on our honeymoon travels. And while she was there, she met lots of soldiers, lots of pilots. And those pilots looked at these young girls, Carol and her early childhood friend and also classmate, Marianne Fisher. They were both stationed there together, and these guys just looked at these beautiful girls and said, "When I get shot down, will you come and take care of me? Come to Vietnam." Adventuresome Carol said sure. She volunteered. As she told that story, she never talked at all about any danger to herself. She was well trained at this hospital, and feeling the duty to do so, off she went. I want you to remember her as a nurse's nurse, and by that I mean someone who was dedicated, conscientious, the kind that treated everybody with dignity and respect, the kind that you want to take care of your mother, your child, your father, your whoever that you love. She was like that. She didn't look for glory, she just cared about people. One of the people that she cared about was Johnny Williams, Jr. Johnny was an Air Force Chief Flight Examiner in the 309th Commando Squadron. He's now 81 years old, and he lives in California. He tells a wonderful story about how Carol saved his life. He ran into a house that he shared with other men when he saw Viet Cong throw a grenade inside. He grabbed the grenade and threw it, but it exploded close to him and suffered shrapnel to his head, shoulders, rib cage, knee, coccyx, leg, etc. He was then put in a Jeep and taken to the hospital that Carol worked at. The Jeep was ambushed and he was shot. So this man was seriously ill. Following surgery, it was evening, and in the evening on these places, they tried to turn the lights down. Well, sometimes the lights even went out, according to the letters that Carol sent me. They only had cold water, and electricity was on and off. But Carol, being the conscientious nurse that she was, made extra rounds. And she checked on him and found out that from his incision, he was bleeding out onto the bed and then eventually onto the floor. She made sure that he got quickly into surgery, and everything was corrected. He says, that saved my life. He also remembers her in Vietnam as being a very kind, very, very kind person and thoughtful. He was Air Force. Everybody else was Army. And when the Red Cross had the Army get black shaving kits, she said to him, "Where's your kit?" He said, "I told her I didn't have one." She said, "Oh, just a minute." She went and got one. "Here's your kit, Johnny." She was that kind of a person. When Johnny found out that she died, he was truly very upset. When he got home from Vietnam, he searched and found Carol's mother. And every year on Memorial Day, he sent flowers to her mother to say thank you that your daughter saved my life. On my most couple months ago, I visited with him again in California. And holding in his hand, I gave him one of these coins that we're selling. And he held this in his hands and he said, "Nobody knows how I feel. I look at this medal. I'm alive and she's dead. You don't know how that feels. She was young and alive." When I first met him, he showed me his Purple Heart. Carol's obituary was in it. He said, "Now, this goes in there too." Very grateful for her. He's not well, so he couldn't be with us. He did send money for her memorial, and he's really thrilled about what we're doing for her today because she does need to be honored. Carol did send me lots of letters, and she told me how hot and sticky it can be there and how some of the patients, most of them were very traumatic injuries. She spoke of hearing sometimes artillery fire and seeing flashes, but again, I say to you, she did not speak about danger. Her last letter to me was written 8 days before she died, and when I got it and I found out she died, I just couldn't believe that it was true. I thought she must be on one of those special missions, because that's what she'd do. She'd volunteer to go. When we were getting capped in nurses training, we took a pledge. And I'd really like to read that to you today because I think that that's what Carol is all about. And the rest of the alumni, we sang this, but I will not sing it. I dedicate myself today to those who need my tender care, May strength be given me, I pray, to lift the cross that others bear. When eyes grow dim and night appears, my faith in him will calm their fears. With smiles, I'll dry away their fears. Keep me worthy to serve today. My sacred trust I'll keep for air. My hands will always willing be. When duty calls, I will obey. My pledge is as a prayer to me. And when with tired feet I come, for rough are roads that must be trod, then may he say, thy works well done. You have walked hand in hand with God. Carol was a faithful nurse who took her calling seriously. She fulfilled that calling, and God took her home. We were blessed to know her. We thank God for that privilege. Let us all remember that life is a gift, a sacred gift from God. Remember, too, that death is swallowed in victory when Jesus, who prepares a place for us, takes us home. Carol's childhood friend and Vietnam veteran, Mary Ann Fisher, brought her home, and we still mourn Mary Ann's death in 2005. She, too, was a close best friend and classmate in one of our gang of 6. Now, in closing, on behalf of myself and the alumni of the Scranton State General Hospital School of Nursing, thank you for coming to honor Carol. It's her day. It's so well deserved, and we're so proud of our hero. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ann.